citizens of Gotham City. Like me, you have fallen victim to this man's lies and deception. In doing so, we will solve the greatest mystery of all. For example, he promised us that this figure looks incredibly good and is fully equipped with so-called high-quality accessories. Lies! Nothing but lies! Since I'm not a monster, I will give him one more chance to convince me otherwise. And in doing so, I think we will solve the mystery of all mysteries. Is this man a liar? Or is he not? If Mr. Baseman here managed to convince me in the next 20 minutes that this figure really promised what he says, I will let him live. Goodbye!
Oh my god.
Let's start with the packaging, which is, as you can see, is quite large and quite heavy, and that's no wonder because the packaging not only contains our figure, but is also packed to the brim with a lot of accessories, as we will see a little later. Visually, the packaging looks really good. In the foreground we can see the main character, which is what we are talking about today. In the red shimmer in the front of the Gotham City skyline, in the rain, stands none other than the Batman. I really like the way Batman is presented on this packaging with this red light. It's hard to miss. Behind Batman is the Batsignal, which is not only shown on the packaging, but is also in the packaging, and it will be really cool. Can you promise that at this point? Under the Batsignal, we see the Batman lettering with an integrated Bat logo. Below we see various question marks of the Riddler. Speaking of the Riddler, he is also shown on the right side of the packaging. Around the packaging there is a banner with another picture of the Batman and the Batsignal. On the left side we see the Gotham Bridge, and around the Bat logo against various question marks. On the left side there is a dark blue background, no longer red, but with a red Bat logo that is now much easier to see. On the back we get another glimpse of the Gotham City skyline. It is mostly covered in question marks. It is nice to see how the color red fades to blue from the right side. Perhaps an allusion to the Riddler, who first terrorized the city with explosions and then ultimately floods it? But that is just a thought. Finally, we have the credits. Let's take the lid of the packaging. We can see 3 more images of Batman in different poses, this time in black and white. I particularly like the lettering in the middle, where Batman's face can be seen. Let's turn the packaging 180 degrees. We can see our figure through our window. The Batman with Robert Pattinson, who will have fought from Twilight Star to the Batman actor. Robert Pattinson will definitely not have been my first choice when it came to casting. There were others I will have preferred. Personally, I will have preferred a slightly older actor. But as we all in year 2, so everything is almost back to the beginning, the Batman can be a little younger. And when you look at the end product, you can definitely take your hat off. But not just to Robert Pattinson, who does an extremely good job, but to the entire team, whether in front or behind the camera, who let Batman return to his roots and let him do more of his detective work than letting his fists fly. And that is what makes the film so different. Batman's overall appearance is also different. There are some change compared to his predecessors. But before we look at the suit, I would like to start with the head, and you can see straight away that the mask has been completely redesigned. While those responsible for the Keaton, Kilmer-Clooney and Bale era only made slight change to the mask, here they decided to change everything fundamentally. Just like with the suit, similar to what was done with Ben Affleck's version of Batman, which I don't want to rule out, of course. Admittedly, I'm not a big fan of this mask design. I rather side with a Christian Bale or Michael Keaton Batman whose mask I like much better. But I don't want to make any comparisons here and now. I want to judge everything as neutrally as possible. That means comparing the implementation of the character with the implementation of the film. And as far as that goes, I have to say that a really good job was being done here. Everything is very detailed. If you look closely, you can see the seams and even signs of wear and tear, EA scratches from past battles against the evil of Gotham. Of course, how could it be otherwise? We also have the option of moving Batman's eyes here. And it's really easy. First we take off the head, which is also magnetic, and now this nice part that comes with it comes into play. When we turn the head, we see two joysticks. With this we can turn the eyes in any direction we want. Since we already have the head down, we can answer the question ourselves how well Robert Pattinson is captured without a mask. Because surprise, we get a second head without a mask. And just like with the head before, we also have the option of rolling the eyes here. This is almost exactly the same procedure, except that we have to remove the back part of the head. I have a few Batman figures, and this is the first one where it is possible to roll Bruce Wayne's eyes as well. I don't feel good about leaving Batman here headless like that. I didn't say we quickly put on the second version without a mask, but we have to follow a few steps first. But that's also very simple. First we remove the neck, we take the neck piece provided and put it over Bruce Wayne's neck, then we simply put the head back on the body, and that's it. Now we have the opportunity to take a closer look at Batman, or rather Bruce Wayne, without a mask. And I have to say I'm satisfied. A really good job was done here. Robert Pattinson's face is very well done. What I would like to mention, especially since we are on the subject of faces, is the fact that in this adaptation of the film, care was taken to make Batman appear as realistic as possible. That sounds strange now, since this is after all a superhero film. But I would like to talk about two things that we have never seen in a Batman film before. The first is that Batman actually carries his suit in a backpack, similar to the one in the Spider-Man films. And for the very first time in history of all Batman films, as you can see here, consideration was given to the black makeup around the eyes. Personally, I prefer the type of Batman films that you can identify with the most. That means I don't need Superman, Wonder Woman and co fighting against aliens and the end of the world. We don't have any of that in this film. All we have is a young Batman in his second year. Matt Reeves tries to show us his own version of Batman as realistically as possible. And I think that's what makes this film so special. If we look at the suit, it looks very similar to that of a soldier. The suit is mostly made of a thick, stiff material, so I can predict that you won't be able to move much. The individual seams are clearly visible and can be found almost everywhere, whether on the stomach area or on the legs. Only a few elements such as the chest plate, shoulder armor or the gauntlets are made of plastic, while the Bat logo on the chest is actually made of metal and can be removed, but I'll come to that later. Of course, this version of Batman has also a utility belt. It featured several pockets and holsters on both the front and back, allowing Batman to carry all the equipment he needs to fight evil when he takes to the streets of Gotham City. In fact, it's possible to store some in the included accessories in the pockets, as they can actually be opened and closed. I'll come back to that in a moment. I really like the design of the belt. They are completely abandoned to the yellow color of the past, opting for black. The clasp is also very nice, although it looks like it's made of metal, it's actually made of plastic. I really like the mix of black, silver and light yellow. Moving to the left side, we notice there is something else on the belt underneath the pockets and holster, a reloading container for sticky bomb cartridges. Speaking of the sticky bomb, if we go a little further down, we see two straps on the right leg that belong to a holster. We will be inserting the sticky bomb into this holster a little later. The boots also look really good with the silver eyelets and laces. There are cuffs over the boots that can be moved a bit. The yellow border of the cuffs is very noticeable. I have the feeling that the boots are one piece. But when I try to pull the cuffs up a bit, it makes me think that the feet aren't separate, which could have been done, because as you can see, the cuffs will cover the lower part anyway. That could cause us problems when it comes to mobility. The cape looks fantastic. I particularly like the small detail on the bottom of the cape. There is a certain rendering effect there. I like details like that. If we unfold the cape, we see that it looks like the wings of a bat. A wire has also been integrated into the outer sides of the cape, which allows us to manipulate the cape a bit and create certain effects for individual poses. As for the material itself, I can explain what the kind of material it is. It's really very thin and feels almost like paper. I also think the material is very fragile, so be careful. Let's talk about the mobility! The head can be rotated on its own axis thanks to the integrated magnets. Moving it forward and backward also works without any problems. The torso is unfortunately very stiff and can't be turned up left or right. The same applies when trying to move it forward or backward. To my surprise, the arms can actually be extended forward 90 degrees. We can at least reach 80 degrees sideways. Bending also works without any problems. Unfortunately, due to the very stiff material of the suit, the legs can only be stretched to about 45 degrees. Bending works without any problems. As already mentioned, the feet are not separate EA in one piece, and therefore offer only a small amount of movement. In this case, a little forward and backward. Unfortunately, there is nothing to do sideways. The figure is still so well balanced that we can do without the base. Let's move on to accessories. We have a total of 9 interchangeable hands, 1 unfolded and 1 folded battering, 2 grappling hook guns with a separate grappling hook and a grappling hook with a rope. We have handcuffs, 2 adrenaline injections, 1 sticky bomb gun with a removable cartridge, 1 sticky bomb cartridge, 2 torches, 1 wingsuit, 1 interchangeable cape, 3 different mouthpieces, 1 coal, 1 interchangeable hairpiece, a Riddler card, and finally the highlight of today's review, the Batsignal. Let's start with the base, and this is a typical standard base. It's made entirely of plastic, the bottom side is black and smooth, while the top side is rough. It's impossible to miss the image on the top side. In this case, it's possibly the floor of the entrance area of the iceberg launch. If you don't like this image, you have the option of choosing between 2 other images. We also get 2 additional images. One is a motif with a black background with a batarang large in the foreground and Batman surrounded by bats right behind it. The second image, I think it's from the case with Penguin. In this scene, a tanker truck exploded and a little later you can see Batman slowly walking towards Penguin. What's not obvious at first glance is that this graphic card has a small texture. When we run our fingers over the graphic card, we can feel the light areas feel smooth, while the dark areas are rough. A nice little detail. If you chose this motif, you also get an assembling backdrop with 3D effect. If you look closely, you can see the explosion spreading. The whole thing is incredibly easy to set up and looks pretty cool, although I did personally go for the first option. Now we come to something really cool, and that's a diorama. I always do my homework before my review and watch the films thoroughly, and I dare say that this diorama can be assigned to the iceberg launch. As I said, I've watched the film several times, but these steps here aren't seen in any scene in the film. Only the handrail, which can be found in the entrance area of the iceberg launch, is identical to this diorama. Another clue might be the steps, which can also be illuminated, even if it's only the first 2 steps. for whatever reason. Now guess what the color of the steps are? That's right, red! If we look at the scene in the iceberg launch, we see red light flashing repeatedly in the background. Maybe, just maybe, I've solved the mystery of this diorama. As mentioned above, the diorama can be illuminated, and admittedly this is something completely new to me. Not battery operated, but main operated with USB-C. I've never seen anything like this before, and I personally think it's a good thing. What's not so great is the fact that the switch is positioned rather awkwardly between the plug and the steel support. You either have really thin fingers or you'll need to use tools to flip the switch. Otherwise you have no other choice and you will have to remove the steel support again to get to the switch. Once you have done that, it will look like this. As I said, unfortunately, only the first two steps are illuminated. The diorama can be rebuilt in 3 different versions. We're currently looking at the first one, so that leaves 2. For version 2 we remove the front part of the steps. Now your standard base, which we just introduced, come into play. All we do is place a support under the front part of the steps. We can see that there are 2 openings on top of each other at the back of the diorama. All we have to do now is insert the front part of the steps and version 2 is ready. And finally we have option 3. All we need to do is place the base on the left and right edges of the back of the diorama. The front of the diorama is placed under the base with the plug-in edge. And option 3 is complete. As you can see, your imagination is the only limit. You can do whatever you want. Another great thing is that if you turn the diorama over, you'll see this base on the back. This is the same base that was seen on the roof of the Gotham Police Department when Batman jumped off the building in his wingsuit. As you can see, this neat piece is full of surprises. Next up is one of Batman's most recognizable pieces of equipment, the Batarang. Surprisingly, it wasn't really used as such. And when it was used, it was more as a cutting tool. Remember when Batman cut the power cable at Bellariel's award ceremony and shortly afterwards plunged it into the deeps of flooded Gotham Square Garden? Since the Batarang is actually made of metal and practically a single piece, it's unfortunately impossible to fold. Therefore it comes in 2 versions, one unfolded and one folded. To be precise, we have 3 Batarangs, including the one in the integrated chest plate. It can even be removed, just like in the film. And this is where your neat little toy comes into the play again. We place the bottom edge of the Batarang in the center of the chest plate, and we're holding our Batarang in your hands. Of course the whole thing also works the other way around thanks to the integrated magnet. Let's move on one famous piece of equipment. This one should also be familiar to every Batman fan. I'm talking about the grappling hook gun, albeit in a slightly different form. Personally, I only know it is a separate projectile, but this one, or rather these, there are 2 of them, is permanently integrated into the gauntlet. So when Batman needs to quickly reach a higher level, a mechanism pops out and the grappling hook gun pops out. That's a really cool thing. We can of course recreate the whole thing. All we have to do is remove both existing grappling hook guns from the bottom of the gauntlets and replace them with the activated grappling hook guns. All we need now are grappling hooks. It's a good thing we have them. Batman has 5 grappling hooks on each of his gauntlets, which are reloaded via quickly loading mechanism. However, we have to make do with 2 hooks. One is a single hook and the other is connected by a rope. Of course, it isn't a real rope. Physically that will be possible. It's supposed to give the impression that the grappling hook is being shot upwards, so they decided to make the rope out of metal and connect it directly with the hook. The right choice. The whole thing works very simply. You choose your desired version with or without a rope, it's up to you. Simply insert the desired version into the designated opening of the grappling hook gun and you're done. The handcuffs aren't made of metal but are made entirely of plastic, which doesn't make them any less attractive. They can be adjusted slightly in the middle and of course they can be opened and closed. Next up are two adrenaline injectors, which Batman had to initiate after being shot in the chest by a pump gun on the balustrade at Gotham Square Garden. I mentioned earlier that there are pieces of equipment we can even store in the utility belt. This is one of them. We simply open the front pockets and stuff the injections in, and that's it. But not only the injectors fit in your belt, props, we still have plenty of space for more equipment, such as the torch that Batman used to evacuate the people from the Gotham Square Garden. And I deliberately do not speak in the multiple form and say a torch. Even if we have two here, it symbolizes a red ratchet and a drawn torch here, because unfortunately it's not possible to pull out the torch. And that is why it was decided to produce two variants, despite everything. Both variants can be inserted into the holster just mentioned on the back, and that looks very good. Speaking of holsters, if we go towards to the right leg, we also see a holster into which this nice piece goes. This is the sticky bomb gun. Even though it didn't appear in the film, the design looks really good, but it's also pretty useless. If we look at the middle, we notice that something really important is missing. Namely a cartridge magazine. Good thing we got an extra one. This can be easily inserted into the sticky bomb gun. And if we look more closely, we notice that the cartridge magazine is identical to the one Batman already has on his belt. The sticky bomb gun can easily insert it into the holster. All we have to do is open the holster, which is closed with Velcro. Now we simply insert our gun and close the whole thing again. But that's not all, there is also a single sticky bomb cartridge, which was used in the film more or less as a kind of a mini detonator. Batman used this little piece to attach it to one of the tanks hanging around the video cube in Gotham Square Garden. These in turn exploded seconds later and burst into smoke, causing confusion. Typical Batman. Let's move on to something I don't even think it's a bad idea, but I will definitely never use. Just for you, of course. I'm talking about the wingsuit. As I said, the filmmakers really put a lot of thought into making the film and Batman look as realistic as possible, and this idea with the wingsuit is simply brilliant. It doesn't look pretty, but is effective. We've only seen Batman unfold his cape and glide over Gotham like a giant bat in the past. If we take a closer look at the wingsuit, we notice numerous zippers, 7 to be exact, but the two most important ones are probably the two on the left and right front. All we have to do is open the zipper on either the left or right side. It's completely sufficient to open just one side. Which one doesn't matter. We insert our figure into the wingsuit and simply close the zipper again. You don't necessarily have to remove the cape, you see, it works just fine. As I said, it doesn't look pretty, but this idea is brilliant. Let's move on from the wingsuit to another interchangeable cape. Admittedly, I didn't even want to change the cape and just wanted to present it to you as it is, because I was afraid of breaking something on this figure. But of course, I'll do it for you. First we remove the head and then the chest plate, which surprisingly is attached with Velcro. I haven't seen that before either. Then we simply swap the respective capes. We have to make sure that the front flap of the cape is pressed onto the Velcro. When putting on the chest armor, make sure that the two outer abs are placed under the cape. And that's it! This cape is slightly different from the standard cape. The first thing we notice is that the fabric consists of 2 layers. So this cape is a bit thicker and heavier. The cut is also slightly different. If we place the 2 capes side by side, we can see that the standard cape on the left side is more like bat wings. The cape on the right side is cut more straight at the ends. 3 additional wires have been integrated here. This additional cape should be interesting, especially to those who own the Batsignal. I believe the cape was made especially for the Batsignal. I can imagine that with this cape and the additional wires, it's possible to create some wonderful poses. Of course, with this figure we also have the option of giving Batman different facial expressions. We can choose between 3 different mouthpieces: a closed mouth, an open mouth, and a snarling mouth. That's really angry. Swapping the mouthpieces is really easy thanks to an integrated magnet. You simply pick the desired expression and replace it. It's perfect for the situation or pose you're trying to create. It's almost standard practice that if we own a Batman figure with an additional Bruce Wayne head, we get an additional Batman cowl. Of course, that's the case here too. And that's really great thing. So I will immediately move on from the cowl to this hairpiece, because both play a role here. We remember there is a scene where Bruce takes off his cowl in the Batcave and his hair falls slightly forward. We actually have the option of recreating the scene with this hairpiece and the cowl. We proceeded in a similar way to swapping out the mouthpieces. There is a magnet here too. Simply choose the desired look, swap it out, and that's done. Our boy looks really good. We've talked far too much about Batman, but what about the real genius, the Riddler? Even if he gets a bit of a miss in this review, he was at least kind enough to leave a card here, even in a slightly smaller form. You heard right, we actually get a Riddler card on top of that. This card is from the first crime scene when Riddler murdered Major Mitchell. So we have a first murder and thus also first mystery. What does a liar do when he is dead? The love letters, by the way, are always addressed to only one address, as you can read on the envelope here. To the Batman. Nice little detail, by the way. The card itself is also rich in detail, looking exactly like the doos in the film, both inside and out. Finally, we come to the highlight of today's review, the Batsignal. When we look at the Batsignal, it looks at first glance as if it were made of metal and will weigh accordingly. It's also relatively large. But that's not the case. The Batsignal is actually made of plastic and relatively light. The optical illusion that it may be metal speaks volume for Hot Toys. The plastic has been particularly coated with a material that gives the Batsignal a rusty metal look. In addition to things like the broken elements next to the bat or the levers on the sides that can actually be flipped, there are also a few spots of oxidation. By the way, this is my first Batsignal. I'm more than impressed. Really good work. Maybe I'm saying that because I own this one. But I find this Batsignal is particularly beautiful. The funny thing is, I thought the Batsignal was battery operated. In fact, it's USB-C powered, just like the diorama. As nice as the signal is, I unfortunately have to manage one negative point, and that's the switch. Similar to the diorama, it's in an awkward place and very small to boot. It's usually difficult to reach the switch, but we manage it, and your bat can be seen in the sky. There is only one thing left to say. We have a signal now. For when I'm needed. When that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning. My conclusion, you saw it with your own eyes. I'm by no means a liar, so the Riddler can let me go. This figure is great. Even though Robert Pattinson didn't make it to the top of my list of the favorite Batman actors, this figure still managed to take first place in my Batman collection. Congratulations! I had so much fun working with the figure. Not only the figure is visually very well executed, but it does Robert Pattinson proud. No, we also bombarded with tons of accessories, forcing me to work overtime. With my personal highlight of today's review, the Batsignal, this figure is a real eye-catcher. Things like the limited articulation or the very small switches on the diorama and the Batsignal are therefore quite forgivable. That's why my rating is as follows. And what you can do with this figure, I'll show you now. Because I kept my promise and the figure is truly amazing, the Riddler has decided to set me free, even though he left me with a riddle. What has a beginning and is inexorably moving toward you? The end? The end? Don't worry, nothing will explode here. I'm sure he means the end of the review because we already reached that point. The good thing is that we all stay in Gotham City in the next review. We'll just take a quick jump back to 1995. That's when I presented to you Batman and Robin from Batman Forever in a double review. The sad fact, however, is that a few days before these two figures arrived, I received the sad news that Val Kilmer had passed away. In the next review, it will be an honor for me to once again discuss Val and specifically his role as Batman. But until then, I'll say goodbye for now. And don't forget, if you look for toys, then Patrick's your choice. See you again.